And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome everyone to this webinar. Today's subject is how to create content with both great structure and great language. And your host today is Tom Aldous, but Tom couldn't be here because he is stuck on an airplane at the moment, so I am filling in for Tom. And while you can read all about Tom on this slide, my name is PG Bartlett. I'm responsible for product management at Acrolinx. And I have done some webinars too. So, and with that, our guest today is George Bina. George is with Syncrosoft. And George, why don't you say hello to everyone and describe your role briefly at Syncrosoft.
Hello everyone, my name is George Bina. I'm one of the founders of Syncrosoft, the company that develops Oxygen XML editor. And I will have a slide later when PG will give me control, and I will say some more about Syncrosoft and Oxygen and what we do.
Great, thanks George, and very glad to have you with us today. And as George said, he'll be doing both a demonstration and a presentation in a few minutes. I do have some introductory slides, but before we get started, I would like to ask a question, a very simple question with a survey. Are you an Acrolinx customer? Yes, not yet, or no? And we're curious, you'll get a later question about whether or not you're an Oxygen customer later on, because we are curious about our audience, how many of you are already customers of Acrolinx, how many of you are customers of Oxygen, how many of you are new to both. And looks like 3/4 of you have already voted. That was fast. I'm going to go ahead and close the results and let you see them. As you can see, about 1/6, I can do the math, 1/6 say yes, you're Acrolinx customers, about 1/5 not yet, and about 60% no. Good. Glad to know that. So let me tell you a bit about Acrolinx. Then we start at the end by telling you who our customers are. And you can see the list now. Primarily, we sell to companies who create lots of content, so not unlike the Oxygen customer list. In high tech, computer hardware, networking equipment, that sort of thing, telecommunications equipment, and software, medical, primarily medical devices, industrial customers of all kinds, and aerospace, defense, and automotive customers. So the topic here today is two parts, right? It's about great language and great structure. George is going to talk about the structure part. I'd like to talk about the language part. And to create great language, it needs to be accurate. It needs to be complete. Should be consistent across different types of material. Should be understandable to your audience, and of course, the audience needs to be able to find them. Now, what we'd like to focus on are the bottom three. And the reason we'd like to talk about those is that that's where we can bring some automation to bear. In the case of accuracy and completeness, that's something that you need an editor, an author to really focus on. That's not, it's hard to get computer technology to help you with those areas. But in the bottom three, we can in fact help you with that. So to create content, as we call people ready, global ready, search ready, let's talk more about what that means. So consistency, an example, there's lots of different ways within a company you may talk about your product. In this case, the example is a pump. Marketing knows very well to call it the Acme Wonder Pump, but support has a different name. Tech Docs uses yet another name, and so on through the organization. So it's not just about terminology, but speaking with one voice, speaking in a consistent way is certainly part of being understandable, but it's also part about sending the same message from every part of the organization. And so, and this is very brief, I understand that. So what Acrolinx does is help you optimize your content by bringing automation to the process of helping you create content that's consistent, understandable, and findable. and we can work with all different parts of the organization who are creating content and connect them together to your customers and essentially wash them through Acrolinx so that they do all talk with the same sort of terminology. In some cases, you may want to talk with the same style, the same tone of voice. How personal, how friendly, or how formal do you want to be in how you speak? Acrolinx does do spelling and grammar checking, can check for reading grade level, so that you can target the education level of your audience. Many of our customers use our software to make sure that their content is more translatable, and that's both a combination of simplifying sentences, helping the author simplify sentences by making sure the verb parts are kept together, by keeping the construction of the sentences simple, and also by reducing word count, by helping the author identify words that are extraneous or phrases that could be reduced in the number of words. And improving translatability can also improve comprehension, because if you simplify your sentences and make your terminology simpler and more consistent, use fewer long words, that will help people who are native speakers to understand your language, people who are speaking your language as a second language, as well as translators. And you can see some other dimensions of content quality that Acrolinx can help with. So there's benefits both internally and externally when it comes to automating the process of optimizing your language. Internally, typically customers see cost benefits up to 10% in the authoring process. A significant reduction in editing costs, because Acrolinx can help editors catch so many problems that editors are typically stuck with catching, if there are any editors left. In many organizations, there's little or no capacity for editing anyway, but in those cases where there are, Acrolinx can find problems before they get to the editors, report them to the author, and eliminate the cycle of going from the author to the editor, back to the author, back to being fixed, to being fixed, back to the editor. And benefit in translation costs and benefit in time to market. And the customer-facing side, by making the content more findable, by helping with the placement and presence of keywords, improving readability. All of those areas can have an impact on customer satisfaction and ultimately on revenue. So that was a very brief introduction to Acrolinx. One thing we didn't show, but you're going to see from George, is so how does it work? And you'll see Acrolinx built into Oxygen, essentially plugging into the authoring tool. And what you won't see is the Acrolinx server in the background that our integration with the authoring tool talks to. So before I go on, let me do the next polling question. And there's two related questions here. The first one is, do you author XML content? Should be pretty simple. Yes, no. There's a not sure, which will be interesting to see if anyone is not sure if you author XML content. So far, no one's not sure. And you don't have to be embarrassed, because we don't know who you are. So if you say you're not sure, you're not going to hear from me later saying, how did you not know? So about 3/4 of you have voted already. That seems like a pretty good number. We'll go ahead and close the polls and share the results. So 3/4 of you are authoring XML, and 1/4 are not. The related question of that is, what authoring app do you currently use? So you see your choices: Oxygen, FrameMaker, Word, something else. And my request would be, if you're using Oxygen at all, then say Oxygen. If you're not using Oxygen at all, or you're using FrameMaker, say FrameMaker. And if you're not using either of those, but you are using Word, say Word. And if you're not using any of those first three, then say Other. Otherwise, don't know. Okay, I'll show you those results as well. And you can see that about 1/3 of you are using Oxygen. Very good. A little over 1/4 are using FrameMaker or Word. The biggest group, edging out Oxygen by a nose, is Other. And then finally, a few of you do not know. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to George. You now have control, and love to see your slides, your desktop, and your demo. Go ahead.
Thank you, PG. As I said, a few words about Syncrosoft and Oxygen. Syncrosoft was founded in 1998, and since 2002, 2003, we work exclusively on Oxygen. We started Oxygen XML editor in 2001. Now we are at version 14.2. We started initially as a tool for XML development. And people started to ask us about easier user interface to create XML documents. So we responded to that by adding XML authoring support, this visual editor that we offer for creating XML documents in 2007. We support a number of standards like DITA, DocBook, DI, XHTML, but all that is just a configuration, and it can be created, similar support can be created for any XML language. Oxygen is available as a desktop application, and this is what I will show today, but also as an Eclipse plugin. So people that already work within Eclipse can use Oxygen directly inside Eclipse as an Eclipse plugin. We also have an SDK that provides the visual editing part as a component. This can be used to build your own Oxygen-based application, and this can run, your application can run in the browser or on the desktop. In the browser as a Java applet. The SDK provides also support for developing plugins, and the many CMSs use that to integrate with Oxygen, and this is used also by Acrolinx to create the integration between Acrolinx and Oxygen. We are focused on Oxygen XML, and we do not have plans to develop a CMS or a language checking technology or anything other. So now, as Tom initially, the plan was that Tom will demo the Acrolinx integration in Oxygen. I will move to that now, and then I will come back to the structure part that my slides talk about. So here I have a data document that PG sent me a sample, and I converted this to data to show this in Oxygen. In order to install the Acrolinx plugin, we provide a support called add-ons, and basically you can enter an update site URL, and Acrolinx provides the Oxygen plugins through this update site support. So you enter a URL, and then when you go to manage add-ons, you should be able to see the Acrolinx plugin and install that in Oxygen. I have a number of plugins already installed. Here you see the Acrolinx plugin. If Acrolinx updates the plugin, I receive a notification and I can install the new version automatically. So it's very easy to get the plugin installed. Once you install the plugin, you will have these additional actions on the toolbar. These are pretty standard for Acrolinx. So if you use Acrolinx with other tool, Word or any other tool they integrate with, you should find these actions familiar. First thing probably that you need to do is to go to the settings and set up your server. And then you should choose the language, the rule set that you want to use, different rule sets, and different term sets. So basically you need to configure your checking experience. There are also other configuration options to select different colors for different type of issues reported by Acrolinx. Also, you have additional options, XML specific, about segmentation and filtering. If you want to exclude, for instance, the code, if you have fragments of code, of Java code or JavaScript or whatever code in your documents, you may want to exclude them from the checking, for instance. Then the main check can be triggered with this action. The server is now hosted by Acrolinx. I think they provide also so a server version, but PG can provide more details about that. So I get a report. I can also click on these details to get to the website where I have a summary of a report of the checking that I just performed. But then I can go in Oxygen, and when I click OK, all that information is rendered, is highlighted in my document. Now, on the contextual menu of each of these highlights, I have different actions. As you can see, different type of problems are reported with different colors. So this says capitalize at beginning of sentence, and I can replace that, so I can perform the fix up action directly from here, or replace that in the whole document where this problem appears. Right? So I choose to replace the current occurrence, and the fix is applied. There are other. This is a deprecated term, and I have a suggestion here also to replace this Philip head screwdriver with crosshead screwdriver and so on. There are more checks, and then I can use, as I go through this, I can either press next here, or I can say step through mode, and then the contextual dialog stays here in the same location, and I can just go through all these highlighted issues and act on them. On each of them I can specify how I want to resolve that problem. PG, feel free to direct me to, if you want to say something about any of these checks. Highlight maybe some. This is a term that check should be replaced with make sure, for instance.
Right. That's a so that's set up in the terminology system where. And it's easy enough to set this up, but we set up in this case the particular rule set to so that make sure, or so that check is replaced with make sure, because check can have so many different meanings. So replacing check with make sure is less ambiguous. I'm not as familiar with using this particular rule set for. So there's actually some issues that it's not catching. I think the very last one there, the very last one on the screen that says in green, that says, yeah, if you right-click on that, you'll see that the sentence is too long. So no longer you can adjust, again, the customer can adjust the length that triggers a sentence too long. I think in this case it's 30 words, and the longest before it triggers an error, a message, is 26 words. Of course, you can still have sentences longer than that. You can leave it alone and not fix it. But this is it does bring the author's attention to it. There's some other things that it checks for that are not in this rule set. So it's not very helpful for me to mention that right now. But in fact, George, maybe you could go up to the options dialog, because this particular document is more of a marketing document than a technical document. And so if you change that to marketing, and then click on OK, and then run the check again. And by the way, as the check is running, what's happening is that the software that we have that is on the desktop, installed on George's desktop, packages up the content as well as the context, send it to the server. In this case, it's a demo server in a different country, and then that server sends back the flags, and that's what you see here. So, George, if you go down to the area where that's right now, perhaps go up about half a screen, so that picture is just off the screen.
Oh, like this.
Go up, so it's just off. And then you can see that that there's, if you go down to step 31 where it says turn the power switch off, so that's an example of the two verb parts, turn and off, are separated. And if you can see in the context menu, the software knows that the right way to say that is turn off the power switch. Easier to translate, easier for machine translation to do, and easier for someone for whom English is a second language to understand. Turn off the power switch. When you say turn the power switch off, someone who's not fluent may not understand exactly what that means. And going down to step 33, you'll see that will provide is highlighted. And why is it highlighted? Well, because it's future. It's future tense. And generally speaking, when you're writing, especially whether it's marketing information or technical information, actually this is more technical than marketing now that I think about it, you want to avoid future tense. And so you can replace it with either provides or provide, depending on what works. In this case, it's check that it would be make sure that the rack provides sufficient clearance. Going down to step 35, the second flag says with the exception of. Well, that's just a very wordy way to say except for. And getting rid of words is a good thing both for clarity and for translation costs. So you can see there's lots and lots of different things that Acrolinx can check for. It checks for terminology, checks for grammar issues that aren't really grammar issues in the sense of being wrong. I mean, turn the power switch off isn't wrong. It's just not as clear as it could be. And one thing we're not seeing but certainly could see is looking for style issues, tone of voice issues, such as passive voice or use of first person, second person, third person, that kind of thing. So thanks for letting me jump in on that, George. Back to you.
You know more than I do.
A few things.
So basically what this integration provides is that these checks are available to the author as he creates the content. And then it is a lot easier to fix them immediately as they are created, as issues are created, than to wait, until a review process later on and discover this issue then. Okay, I will, as I'm on this demo, this support is created by Acrolinx, this plugin, and I mentioned that Oxygen is available also as a component, so you can build your own XML authoring applications that use Oxygen as a base. And we have a sample that includes shows the outer component used in the browser. And what we've made, we allow the plugins that are developed for the Oxygen desktop application to be used also with the outer component. So you can have the Acrolinx integration without any effort, basically in your own application that uses the Oxygen outer component, either if that is a desktop application or if it runs in the browser as a web application. So here you can see it's Firefox. This is a web page, and we have the Oxygen editing function editor here, but you can also see the same toolbar with the Acrolinx actions, and I could trigger the same check also from this, and then I get the issues highlighted. Again, this now the configuration took the marketing set, but if we move to the data set, I want to show you some overlap between the check for content that Acrolinx provides and the check for the structural checks that Oxygen helps with. There is a small overlap in what Acrolinx and Oxygen does. For instance, if you look here at this data map, Acrolinx says missing UE user interface control element. So they also go a little in the structural part, directing the user that data map should be enclosed in a user interface control element, should be marked up as user interface. So I can, just select this and type UI control, and let me put the tags on so you can see. So if I put this inside user interface control, then NextCheck will not flag this as a problem anymore. Okay, so that's the demo part that shows basically the same Acrolinx plugin developed for the Oxygen desktop available in the browser, or it can also work in a desktop application that uses this outer component to create an application. Now, coming back to the structure part, and there was a question at the beginning if you used XML documents or not. Office documents are XML in the last versions, like both OpenOffice XML and Open Document Format are XML-based formats. So if you edit in Word these days, then or Excel or OpenOffice, you actually change XML documents. XHTML is XML. And if you use data and only the highlight domain, like bold, italic, underscore, subscript, teletype, then that is XML, but it doesn't bring a lot of value. That is not great structure. For great structure, you need to use the right elements to encode the semantics of your content. And an XML language add that semantic part because XML is just syntax. And you cannot create great structure if you do not want to know anything about what you try to achieve, about the language, the XML language that you will use to encode the content. There are people that think that they only need bold italic to be like Word, and that should be enough. But that will not get you, even if you use XML, it will not get you the benefits of actually creating a good XML structure, a great XML structure that will mark the information with semantic tags. I prepared a couple of example documents where you can see I have an HTML document here. This describes the text field form control in Oxygen. Then the same information is available in this data document and also in this data document. As you can see, all of these initially they look more or less the same if you look at them, right? But then if you look at the structure of the HTML document, you can see here that all we have is a heading, paragraphs, then an unordered list. Maybe I should just switch on the tags here in the author mode. So we just have some lists, and then for formatting tags like bold to mark these properties here. And then the example is again a paragraph, bold, another paragraph, and pre-formatted. The code is put as pre-formatted content. If we use data, right, we may say, okay, this is better, it's data, it's not HTML. But if we look into this data document, we see that it is pretty similar with the HTML document that we had earlier. It's again paragraphs, then we have lists, we have, let's stay here again, we have in a similar way using bold to mark the property names, and then the example is again in a paragraph, and to use a highlight domain, the highlight domain to emphasize the example title and so on. But if we look at this document, then you can see that here we have a parameter list that contains parameter list entries, and then each parameter, each property is a parameter term, and then it has a parameter description. The example is marked explicitly as an example. This is a code block, it's not just some pre-formatted content, right? So you see that XML is not enough, data is not enough. You can have, similar with unstructured formats, similar information with unstructured formats, even if you use XML or data. Your goal will be to have a good structure, a quality structure on your XML documents, not just XML or just data. That is not enough. And now it comes the role of authoring tools to help authors create a good structure and explain them how and what each element, each attribute represents. And this is what we try in Oxygen. And I will highlight here just a few of maybe some distinguished or important parts that Oxygen offer to create good structure. Oxygen provides the available options to the user, the valid options at every point. And more than this, Oxygen describes what they mean. Oxygen checks the validity of the documents, and Oxygen can enforce and can notify users when business rules that you set fail. So you can enforce your company rules on your documents. Available options are provided through content completion, elements view, attributes views, the description of what each element or attribute mean or values is realized either through schema annotations or DTD comments. So Oxygen automatically extracts this from the schema and presents that to the end user. We allow also to add additional documentation for each of these elements or attributes, like a link to the guidelines or to the style guide of that XML language, or a link to the language specification, to the specification of data, for instance, or the specification of DocBook. The validity can be checked against a DTD, a schema, XML schema, RelaxNG, NVDL, and in some cases the power of XML schemas cannot express what the specification says, and some of those rules can be put again in rules with schematron. And enforcing company rules is done again with schematron, and I will have a few examples. You can check the structure. I mentioned that there is a little overlap between Acrolinks, what Acrolinks does on the content and what Oxygen does on the structure and the content. You've seen that Acrolinks can provide hints about the structure. Also, Oxygen through schematron can provide hints or notify the author about issues with content. Of course, we are mainly focused on the structure, and the checks that you can perform on the content are very limited. They do not have the intelligence or power of what Acrolinks provides. But with schematron, you can suggest a solution and link to a detailed description of the problem. And let's go back to a short demo to show this. We integrated for our next release the data style guide from Tony Self in Oxygen. And some of the style guide rules can be automatically detected. Some checks specified in the style guide can be detected automatically with schematron. And I do not want to get you to know schematron, but the idea is that the schema the rules are really easy. So here, for instance, we match on a node, and we count the number of block elements inside that node. And then if we have only one block element, this URL from the style guide says that if there is just one block of text in the node, then that node should be left as a string only. So if we have only one block, we inform the user that he should remove that block element, and we point him to the URL of the style guide that describes that problem. The same here, this rule does not allow to have block elements and text. So you should not mix text and block elements. And the third rule says if your node starts with node, then that's not great because the rendering will already display Node, so you will get a duplicate. And I prepared here a data task to show these problems. These rules can be checked automatically, but I put them to be checked only when I validate on request. And in the case where I have mixed content, I put the role to be error, not warning. That's why we see this in red. And if we look at these problems, you can see here it says, please remove node text that starts your node. The markup, and then it gives me a part from the data style guide. If I click here, this gets me to the style guide topic exactly that describes this problem. I should not start a node with node, right? Because I get this duplicate also when I transform this to a different output format. If I have just one paragraph inside a node, maybe I should put the tags on so you can see. If I have just one paragraph inside the node, then Oxygen says, from that schematron, it says, please remove the P element and place its text directly in the node. And again, it points me to the style guide page, to exactly the style guide topic that that describes this. You see exactly this paragraph. And you can see that if I change, for instance, the paragraph, let's say let's say we rename this to code block, then if we validate, it says please remove the code block element and place its text directly in the node. That is, the rule automatically can provide even information from the document. We do this here, please remove the, and then match on the element name that is actually present in the document. And the last error is about mixing text directly inside node and block elements. And this is marked as an error because this is what we decided to put in our rule. And here the idea with schematron is that the error message is written by the schema author. So here we can provide information to the user not only about the problem, but also how he should correct that problem. You should wrap the text that you enter directly inside the node in a P element. We can see the message here in a P element or another block element, or move it inside one of the existing block elements. Alternatively, remove all the block elements and leave the node to contain only text, right? So you can write this description here in the schematron rule. Now about the description of each element, you can see that Oxygen provides this description. The first part is extracted from the DTD. Then we also have links to the style guide and to the data specification. So when you click here, you get to the style guide to a topic that describes short descriptions. And if you click here, you will get to the OASIS website where the specification provides information about short description. So these hints allow you to understand, to go to different locations where you can read about the element you are about to use. And this happens, also when you want to insert a new element. You can see here you get, for each such element, you get this description here, so you can read that, or if you want more details, you can click and go either to the specification or to the style guide where we have that information. Okay, let me go back to the slides. Another part of the help that we provide on the data structure is providing an insight into your data documents. What do you use? What elements you use? What attributes you use? What do you reuse? And so on. And what I find very interesting is also the domain projection. Data comes with different domains. And I have here an example of this report. So this can be generated from Oxygen if you have a data map open, like our user guide. And then, sorry, not this one, data map. And then here you say data map metrics report. I have this already generated here for our user manual. And you can see, we have 5 maps, how many topics we have in our maps, and then what map elements, what type of maps you use, what information types we use for the topics, and then how many elements, how many are unique, and so on for maps, for topics, and then we get how many the elements ordered by frequency for maps, then for topics. And I said that what I like a lot is the domain analysis, because we take all this information and project that on domains. So I can see, for instance, how we use the programming domain. And we can see what elements we use from the programming domain, and then we see that we don't use some elements from the programming domain. And then, you may want to ask yourself, should I use maybe these elements that are not used? Maybe I should go back to my code and remove some of the highlight elements that we use and use actually semantic elements that actually describe my content. And so on. You can see, what domains you use and what elements you use on each domain. And then you can see on the reuse what elements you reuse. Same information for attributes, and then what conditional attributes and what values are used for those attributes, and information about the ords, or about the number of characters and what processing instructions are used. We can see that we have, for instance, Oxygen change tracking markup in that document. Oxygen plus acrolinks in the browser, I already presented this. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you. We have a number of upcoming Oxygen events listed on our events program on our website. So you can see that next week we will have a couple of data specific, a first webinar on data support in Oxygen, then a few conferences we attend, so you can meet us, and you can get in touch with me on at oxygenxml.com, george@oxygenxml.com, or George Bina on Twitter. Thank you.
Nicely done, George. Thank you. I'm going to put up your contact information along with Tom's contact information. And here it is. And if you do care to contact me, I have the same kind of email pattern that Tom does, pg.bartlett, that's P as in Peter, G as in George, BARTLETT @acrolinks.com. There were a lot of questions, George, and there's a few still unanswered, and so I think we should get to those first. There are some interesting questions among those that were already answered privately, but we'll be glad to, if time permits, and we won't go past the hour, but if time permits, we can certainly review the more interesting questions that might have general appeal in a moment. Well, let's start with the first one here is, well, maybe, I don't know if Alex wants to get in on this, but is the Schematron integration with Tony's Data Style Guide available in Oxygen 4.2, 14.2?
I will answer that. No, because the Style Guide integration will be available in the next Oxygen release, so it cannot be in 14.2.
Gotcha. Good. Thank you. And then another question here: does the author need to be connected to the internet to access the Data Style Guide and Data 1.2 specs using the links shown?
Right now, yes, but because we decided to put it, so Tony Self was, I want to thank Tony for allowing us to use the Style Guide. We published that as web help plus feedback. So on the website, if you go on our website where those links point to, then you can also provide feedback on those topics. And Tony will be able, and us will be able to respond to that, and maybe, update the Style Guide based on the user feedback. And then everything can work also locally if we have the possibility to provide, the same information as a framework in Oxygen, and all it needs is a catalog to map the remote resources, an XML catalog that will map the remote resources to the local copy. So it will be possible to use that also offline if we will provide an additional framework that contains the Style Guide and the catalog to redirect those to the local copy.
So it sounds like the answer is yes, but it could be changed. The answer could be changed to no through configuration.
Yes, so if needed, it can be made available also offline.
Okay, good. Excellent. Next question, I think it really is, I don't know if it's a question for you or for me, but could be for either of us, which is, do you integrate with Drupal? And I can tell you the answer from the Acrolinks side is no. George?
And also from the Oxygen side is no. We have an open API that was used by CMS vendors to integrate Oxygen with their repositories, and that can be used to create also a Drupal integration, but that is not done.
Okay, good. We've got time for a couple more questions here. They've already been answered for the individual who asked them, but I think they're interesting questions. One of them is so how do you insert illustrations and artwork into Oxygen?
There are specific data actions, and you can also just drag and drop a file from Explorer or Finder or whatever operating system you use, or directly from the Oxygen project view into the data editor, and you will have the image inserted there. It's as easy as that.
Good. Someone asked, will these tools integrate with Madcap Flare? I assume you're talking about Acrolinks, and the answer is we do not have an integration with Madcap Flare. It's the most popularly requested integration that we do not do. So maybe someday. Let's see. I think that's all of the questions that I think are generally interesting. There are a couple more coming in. They're not coming in, and for some reason they're not sorted in the right order here. Here we are. Can Acrolinks be used to assess opportunity for reuse? If you're talking about reuse at, say, the sentence level, the answer is yes. If you're talking about reuse at a higher level, such as, gosh, this topic that you've just written looks awfully similar to a topic that already exists, that's something we've talked about doing, but that is not something that we do today. So the reuse that we do today is at the sentence level, and it can be very effective. Anything more than that, though, the answer is no. And you know what? We're right at the top of the hour. We've run out of questions, so it's perfect timing. George, thank you again for presenting. We really appreciate it, and I hope that Tom, wherever he is able to get back home and get back online. And
thank you for inviting us, and thanks everyone for attending.
Absolutely. Glad to have you all, everyone. Hope to see you next time. Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.